Hey, hello everyone. Hello on the online. My name is Miika Ruotsalainen. I'm from Vectra AI, like the perfect video. It's brand new, released like 2 weeks ago. So hopefully it was worthwhile. And I have my colleague Martin here also. We're gonna split this session a little bit. So I'll start and a little bit of explaining what Vectra AI is to those who don't know what we do, and especially the AI part. And then Martin will go a little bit on deeper on technology and saying that what actually works and how it actually works. So Vectra AI, it's an XDR platform. Our sole purpose is using AI to find the attack signal. That is the only reason why we are existing. So we try to find, as soon as possible, the attack signal, what is coming from the cyber threats, so that you have your precious time to actually do some countermeasurements when the attack actually starts happening. That is the sole purpose of the company. We stop the incidents before they are becoming breaches. If we think about this detection and attacking mechanism, what the world is doing in these days, is we have this in the blue one, we have these events, and then we have this little bit of a security gap in the legacy systems, what's called on the screen part of that picture, and then we have this two big bollows in the end of the line, breach and discover and clean up. So basically, what we do, we go on the sense where the threat actually start happening. We want to be there. We want to see things when events start coming as a threat. We don't want to see the events as it is. We don't bring it to anybody, but we want to see when the events start embracing the threats. The legacy systems normally had a little bit of a gap here, and that's why we are actually partnering, example, with Logstash extremely well. Logstash is rule-based solution, so basically Vectra is bringing the AI part on it. What we are solving, AI as a tool itself or the algorithm, everybody keeps saying in the cybersecurity that AI is existing. Everybody has in their slides AI. We started AI 2011 when people literally didn't know how to spell AI. So we kind of know what we are talking about. We have built all the machine learning models by ourselves from the scratch. So there is no free lunches on it. And when we talk about the AI itself, we need to always give this applied AI. We are not now talking general AI, generic like ChatGPT or anything like that. It's applied AI. And applied AI needs to have always a reason what it actually does. We need to give them a problem to solve. Otherwise, it's completely useless. Don't go to AI if you don't have a real problem to solve. Brilliant. At least on the applied AI. So basically the problem what we are solving is, since the world is hybrid, there's a data center in on-prem, and then there's a cloud, and then there's IoT and OT. So the attack surface is expanding. That will bring us to the more visibility gaps and more blind spots, what will bring more alerts and more false positives on the legacy systems. What brings, on the other side of the attacker side, more these unknown hybrid attacks. So basically nothing what rule-based solution can never find, because it's a man-made. It's us defenders trying to do rules to find attackers who is always half a year before us and thinking before. What brings us to the emerging and advanced hybrid attacks, where the most of the attacks are actually starting from the cloud and ending to the on-prem data centers. What brings on the last and the most, from my point of view at least, and the customer's point of view most of the time, the most critical part, we start getting skill caps. We don't know how to do things anymore. We start getting overworked. We work already 10 hours a day. Now we need to work 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day to find those attackers. And that will end up as a burnout, so people literally can't handle that anymore. So that is the big problem, because if we take IBM's example, research on cybersecurity, they found out that the world is missing 2.3 million cybersecurity professionals at the moment. 2.3 million. That's quite a lot of people. So we are solving that issue. How we do it? Let's go back a little bit, because we always need to know where we are coming from. So if we think about the attack surface expansion in these days, how it's done without Vectra, it's called CM, right? This is called CM, log stack, whatever, CM. We get alerts from email, SaaS, data centers, networks, IoTs, public clouds, identities, and endpoints. We get everything. We get all the detections by siloed. And then we put it on the tool, and we try to gather it around in CM. I'm coming from the CM world. I used to work on the companies who is building CMs. And then that's a little bit of a hard task to do, so that you don't get false positives that much. Everybody knows that. That's why we, as a company, we take these signals natively on those ones what is green, and by third-party integrations, those what are on the blue. So basically, we take the signals, attack signals, on those silos, put them on the one platform, leverage AI to find that attacker methods. That is the thing. And then we apply AI on the triage phase, where we say what is urgent and what is not urgent, what is true and what is not true. So basically cutting out of those false positives out of that square. And that can be actually then streamed to logarithm, or the log stack example on ByteLife, to get that visibility where you get maybe on the application level information, and then you get the Vectra level information, and then you can stitch them in together manually. But you get the threat detection, and you get that attack signal automatically without zero touching on the CM itself. So that is the value what we bring on that technology stack. Like 3 weeks ago, we announced, actually, thank God, our dear little friend, technology friend Gigamon is here also. We announced NDR for cloud. And that's actually pretty big news. That's an OEM agent from Gigamon. And super good integration, because if you think about Azure, how many of you are using Azure? Maybe quite many. So, and Azure has a native problem called, this is a little bit tips and ticks, but it's lacking VTAP functionality completely. So you can't monitor the network traffic inside of the Azure as a natively. So that is a little bit of an issue. But with Gigamon, we solved that issue. We have the Gigamon OEM client, what you put on your Azure, and you will get all the network traffic also from Azure. And that's a big news, because you haven't able to done it ever before. This is the first time in the world. So it's a big thing, trust me, it's a big thing. Then now we also integrated with endpoints, and after the summer we are actually also bringing the endpoint contextual information from Sentinel-1, Microsoft Defender, and CrowdStrike, so that we are start getting that also the endpoint information, attack information from the endpoint solutions to the platform itself. How it works in real life, let's run through this really fast. This is one example of one of our customers. Of course, the names and everything is changed, so we don't give the names of our customers that easily, but this is what happened. So 5:12 a.m., the attacker gains the remote control and spreads on the jump station. We detect it as a hidden HTTPS tunnel. That means that we actually able to see the first line of that threat when the command and control start happening in your environment, and we don't decrypt anything. That's the beauty of AI also. We can actually detect stuff in decrypted information with AI. So hidden HTTPS tunnel, what that actually means, that there's a tunnel where firewalls or anything doesn't see anything. It just says HTTPS, but there's another tunnel inside of that. So they are running another protocol inside of that, and that's the way they are getting a foothold in your environment. Well, CMWAS failed the alert because it's not able to detect that. Then 2 hours later, attacker pivots himself to the cloud identity, attacks the cloud access server, and gets on the Azure AD. That we detected scan ports with suspicious LDAP, RPC recon, and suspicious remote execution. There is nothing special on this. The special thing is that what we actually show it to the analyst and the security team is a one detection, what calls entity-based detection. What includes all these single detections, suspicious remote execution, port scan, and all the contextual information of these detections in a one visible view. In the old systems, you would get these kind of like single detections without any contextual information how they are related to each other, basically. So you would need to do it manually. 20 minutes later, attacker pivots himself to the SaaS, accesses the M365, steals the map of cloud, and pivots himself to the AWS. Now we are in a little bit of a deeper doo-doo on that sense that the attacker actually has an identity what we trust. So almost 100% of the systems keep failing alerting anything because it's a trusted account. It's me, Mika, who is moving on the network. It doesn't make it's fine. He's supposed to do that, but it's somebody else. So it starts getting a little bit of a difficult on that sense. But what we did, we can actually detect the privilege anomaly and unusual account on host example. So we understand what privileges Mika has, me as a user, and then we can start seeing that I haven't used my printer admin roles in 6 to 8 months. And suddenly I'm also logging into the host where I have never logged in before. And on the same time, Azure AD, identity detect and response, is giving us an alert that suspicious sign-on on Azure AD. We see that some suspicious email rules has been created by Mika in M365, and the authentication application is in risk. Somebody have made an IP config change on it. That means that we alerted only once that admin account is in jeopardy. It's doing something what it shouldn't do. Suspend that account and explore. Attacker after or in same minute, because he has identity, MFA, multi-factor authentication is broken, pivots himself to the AWS because now he is more or less, it's a highway to the environment. It's kind of like you can do whatever you like. Nobody will detect anything because you have identity, what is trusted, you have multi-factor authentication, what is working. So zero system is alerting. But what we do, we actually get the information on the AWS and we see anomalies on the privileges, on organization discoveries and permission, user permission enumerations, where we alert that, hey, your AWS server, marketing server, on this case, marketing server, collaboration server 0, is in jeopardy. Something weird is happening. So in just of getting all these separated detections, into your front of your screen and start exploring them, you get 3 ready triaged detections on front of your nose. So you know, and you can act in minutes versus hours or days or weeks. So what we bring coverage. We have a native Vectra AI signal, network, cloud, SaaS, identity, and now, after summer, also on the endpoints from the third party. So we use your endpoint, what you like to use and have already invested. And then we have a third-party signal coming in on SASE, SaaS, and email, and we cover 90% of the Mitra attack framework and the most defend references in the world. We have most patents in the defend of Mitra in the world in the cybersecurity, because they basically built the whole defend based on our input. And the clarity, we think like an attacker, so we bring the signal, attacker signal on front of you as soon as it happens. What we find, if you compare the systems in the our competitors' example, how we differentiate ourselves on the thinking like an attacker, that's a big thing, because you can do anomaly thinking, so finding the baseline, what me or somebody user is doing, or following the connections of different machines and alerting that now this machine is connecting to another one, what it's not supposed to do. Well, that creates a lot of noise. Tremendous amount of false positives, a lot of false positives. What we do, we come from the different angle. We think and we know how attacker is behaving. So basically, we are monitoring all the time in the world how attackers are actually behaving, and they always need to do these certain techniques, tactics, and processes. So we think as an attacker. So we try to find the attacker signal, the behaviorals of attacker from the network level, and on the environment itself. So basically, that's the idea. That's a big difference between those two systems, and we can discuss it later on more how it actually differentiates more. We know what is malicious based on this AI, and we focus what is urgent. So we give you that urgent case, what you need to focus right now, nothing else. Leave that rest for after the lunch. Focus this right now. This is your case. That is what we bring. And on the last C, control, we bring integrated investigation powered by AI, because we gather all the information in the one view. We give you able to give a targeted response. So you can automate the response part, or you can do it manually. It's up to you. Always. It's the customer decision, never us. It's always customer. Customer makes the decision. Can you shut down the server, user account, whatever tool? It's always customer, not us. But that can be automated if that's fine with the customer. And then giving the managed services through partners. So that evaluates your team skills and expertise, so you can actually start focusing what is urgent, what is real matters. So you know your environment, and you can actually focus that and developing more and let the AI do the so-called footwork. That is what AI does. Martin, would you come and explain a little bit why the Vectra AI?
Okay. Thank you. All right. So why Vectra AI? What's the difference? Why do customers want to use Vectra? What's the point? Well, first of all, we are covering our bread and butter, our sort of start of the foundation of Vectra is the network part. The network is a huge part of any company and any IT infrastructure and OT infrastructure. And you can't you can't avoid it. You need to touch the network. If you're an attacker and you want to move attack a company and you want to do something, you need to go through the network. And if you look at all the endpoints that you have in a network, then you know that you cannot cover 100% of your network with EDR. You have multiple operating systems, you have tools, you have pre-built appliances, you have all these type of things that you cannot touch. You cannot get the EDR on them. So you will always have blind spots in your network. And they are also, they can also have vulnerabilities, they can be taken over by a malicious actor. So that is why you need to have something else. You need to have multiple layers of protection. So you cannot just trust on your EDR. Also, EDR can be bypassed. It is something that you can purchase, EDR bypass malwares that will bypass the EDR. So you can effectively work on an endpoint and EDR will be completely blind. Depending on the EDR, they have different techniques to do it, but it's fully functional and fully something that can be done. We had a thought about trying to do a demo of this right here on stage, but it is something that is highly possible, but it's also something that to do it live on stage is a little bit risky, and I myself is not hacker enough to do it, so I wouldn't. I skipped that part today. But basically, this is the idea why you need to have multiple layers. The EDR is not enough. So, if we then look into go back to the sort of Vectra AI, why would a customer choose Vectra AI? Well, there are multiple reasons. The first of all is that it's actually very easy to deploy Vectra. Depending on what components of Vectra you choose to utilize, you can deploy it in minutes if you want to. Certain things takes a little bit more time, but it's still very, very simple. To deploy Vectra in your network, as we mentioned here, it's like network monitored in hours, and that is basically not to actually install Vectra. Usually the biggest problem is to get the network guys to configure the span port with the mirror traffic. That is usually where it takes some time to understand how to get network traffic mirrored into Vectra. But within hours, you can have Vectra up and running in your system, in your network. That is definitely something that we can do. The cloud, we will consume the logs from AWS CloudTrail. We can pull it in from Active Directory and Microsoft 365 from your tenants, and start analyzing them and applying all our AI models and so on onto them, and find the threats and the attacker behaviors. Also, Vectra is very easy to use and to learn. Quite often I hold these sort of workshops, we call them Purple Team workshops, where I attack a demo environment and I let the potential customers use Vectra to detect the threats, detect what I'm doing. And I would say that almost never I have to explain to the customer how to use Vectra in that sense. So it's, for me, that is a really good testament that it is easy to use Vectra. And that is really a strength of it, to give you easy to use interface, not too much clutter and so on. The things that we mentioned here also, ecosystem friendly, yeah, definitely we integrate with your tools. I will touch on that more, so I'm not saying too much. I will touch on that more later, so that's what I'll leave it here. But also the things that Mika was mentioning about attacker behaviors and finding out not the admin stuff, because that's basically false positives. It could be dangerous stuff also, but focusing in on the attacker behaviors. And that is something that is really important, what we do. We don't have signatures. We don't need threat intel to work. We don't need to know all the IPs or domains or things like that of a threat actor. That is uninteresting, because that can change like this. They can change their IPs and domains 50 times a day. They have no problem doing that, the attackers. But what they will not be able to change is their methods, how they perform the attack. They still, for 30 years, they have had to do the same type of things to do their attacks. They have to gain a foothold in your environment somehow. They need to control that machine from the outside. They need to do reconnaissance, both locally on the machine, what they have, what they can use to live off the land, what tools they have, what they can upload. And then they need to reconnaissance the network where they have entered. They need to find accounts that they can use with privileges they can use to move around in the environment. These are things that an attacker always have had to do, and they still always will have to do. This is not mysterious or anything. This is just the nature of this. And this is what MITRE ATT&CK and MITRE DEFEND, these two great frameworks, are focusing in on. How does an attack actually happen? What do they do in each step? What are the different techniques and tactics and procedures that they use to move around in the environment and complete their attack? And they map that to different attacker groups and etc. So you can actually look how a Russian attacker does it, how the Chinese do it, and blah, blah, blah. You can look through all this. And this is what Vectra uses. This is what our data science and so on use to develop our AI models. So that is why we become very, very we can detect 0 days directly. We don't need to update Vectra because we understand that it's an attacker behavior. This looks like an attack. We don't care that it's a new CVE, a new vulnerability. It still looks like an attack. So we don't need to update. So that is the point of the last bullet, I want to say. I'll come back to the data science stuff and so on also in the next slide. But basically, what Mika showed you a little bit about the user interface. The user interface in Vectra is also very, very easy to use. And we try to be very, very focused in on prioritizing for you what you should focus on first. And not clutter with a lot of different alerts. We try to also correlate together anything that's relevant. So all the different detections that we get regarding a specific entity, so like in this case, a specific VM or a file server, etc., we are putting all those detections together into these hosts. And we are building context around the host. What is it actually that we are seeing here? So, and what I mean with the context, and this is basically it. Traditional or earlier type of AI-based systems, they worked with baselines only. They create a baseline. This is what is normal, and this is what we will detect on. So basically, the baseline of this is a baseline type of detection that, yeah, someone has logged in as this user, and they have added a new user to the admin group. And the anomaly detection will fire. This is unusual, so please look at it. This will generate a lot of noise in your environment, these type of detections, because there is a lot. What is unusual is not necessarily dangerous or bad. It's a difference, unusual and bad. So when it comes to this, if you have these type of detections all the time, your SOC will start doing nothing when they see this. They will start, yeah, I don't care. I've seen this 100 times, so I don't care about it anymore. And that means that when there is actually a malicious thing happening, say the 100th time, then they miss it, and the attacker goes through. What Vectra does is that we look at the context. We don't look at just one event and say that it's missing, this is out of the baseline or so on. We understand the context, we understand the attacker behaviors. So we look at multiple events because we know that we have time to detect. We don't need to fire the detection on the first detection. There's not a competition on that. We need to understand first what is going on, and then we fire the attacks. We still have the time. So we look at the context. Someone is logged in as this user, and they're starting to list users. They're starting to list the groups that each user have. They're trying to determine what groups are the privileged ones. And then they create a new account, and then they add that to the... So there is a difference there. Why would, what do you call it? Why would a admin do all this? He knows his work. He doesn't need to do research before he adds a new user to an admin group. He knows what groups he wants to add it to. So this is sort of an example of what we understand about the context of things, how the different detections, the different things goes together. So instead of just looking at baselines that something is unusual, we look at the behaviors. So, all right, this picture looks a little bit weird, but that's fine. So, but basically, going back to how we do the AI in Vectra. So we have two separate teams, the security research team and the data science team. These two teams, they work together, but they also have different sort of purposes. The security researcher team, they work with looking at attacks, real-world attacks from companies that we work with that have been breached, so they analyze those. They also work very closely with the MITRE team, so they look at all those MITRE attacks and MITRE attack frameworks, those type of detections, models and so on. And then they sort of create attacker behaviors from that, so how an attacker does each step of the attack chain. Then they hand that over to our data science team, and they take that and they create the AI and the machine learning models out of it to sort of codify the behaviors into stuff that we can detect. And also, of course, map it back to the sources of signal that we have. So we have the packets, the network packets, from your local network, from your virtualization platforms or your cloud platforms. And then, of course, the logs from the different other sources that we can ingest into Vectra. So we can ingest Office 365, Azure AD, and so on. So those type of logs. So to detect all these type of attacker behaviors using those in data sources. So that is basically how we have done it from day one. Never focusing on using signatures or anything like that. Always have the AI as the foundation of what we do. And that is why we can be in producing detections in almost real time for everything that we do. So, all right, Mika also touched on this. We'll move into a little bit about the platform and so on. That we are now XDR platform. I think most people, if they have heard about Vectra, they've heard about Vectra as an NDR platform, the network detection and response. But based on sort of the world around us and how everything is changing, we have seen that almost every company is going more and more hybrid. All of them have some type of cloud services. You have the Microsoft 365. I mean, here in Europe, Microsoft 365 is really, really common. Azure for running workloads. AWS sometimes. Google sometimes. I think here in the Baltics, we see a little bit more Google than in the rest of Europe. But all of the companies are going sort of for a hybrid approach. And that is where we see that we could expand our platform to be more of an XDR. Because we have already started, like I think it was 2018, 2019, we started bringing in the signal from the Microsoft 365 and Azure AD into the platform. Then we brought in AWS and so on, and we continue on this journey. But what we are always focusing on is that the customer can choose a lot of the things in Vectra. And that is what we mean with build your XDR platform your way. We know that you will have your own tools for a lot of things. You will have your own firewalls. You will probably have your own EDR and antivirus. You will have maybe CM systems and all these type of things. And we don't want to force you to change those or use anything else. And we want to be able to integrate as well as we can with all of these type of tools. So we can bring in additional attack signal into Vectra to further enhance our detections from multiple different sources, and this is something that will also be expanding, where we are including more and more type of things to see further of the attacks. So already today, as I mentioned, we cover the Microsoft 365, AWS. We can cover your virtual environments to see the east-west traffic in those. We can, what do you call it, users that are not in the office, etc. We can cover using the Zscaler. We can integrate with your EDRs that you have already to get the signal there and also do the response. We can get signals using the packet brokers of different sorts, where Gigamon is one of the latest partners now that we are expanding with a lot. But then also for workflow, how you actually want to work with the system. Do you want to sit and look in Vectra? Do you want to get an email from Vectra saying that now something happened and now you need to react? Or do you want to look at the Vectra screen all the time? Or do you already have something like ServiceNow or some other type of incident management system, or a SOAR system or a CM system where all your alerts are popping up in? Well, use that. You don't need to use Vectra for it. We can send all our alerts there. And instead, maybe you can reduce cost in those areas. You don't need to have all the logs in your CM system anymore. So especially for like cloud-based systems like Microsoft Sentinel, etc., we save customers a lot of cost because they don't need to save their DNS logs. They don't need to save their firewall logs and so on in Sentinel anymore to detect it. They have Vectra to do that stuff. So we only send, but they still use Sentinel to manage their detections. So we send the alerts only. So it's like a couple of hundred alerts instead of hundreds of gigs of data, of logs. So that is where we can change the way people are working with their workflow and so on. And we also do response. Vectra doesn't do response natively. We don't have our own, we don't have our own agents. We don't have any sort of weird things where we inject traffic into your network to block, send TCP resets or things like that, which we know either is unreliable at best. It will not probably work in all cases, and it can also make your network unstable in certain cases. So we don't do that. Instead, we allow the customer to choose. How do you want to do response? You probably already today have tested out ways of handling an incident. You have your EDR system. You can lock your host that is infected. So yeah, use that. You have firewalls. You can block ports. You have Active Directory, locked account. All of that can be integrated into Vectra and done automatically or manually. So you can do it. Or you can just send the alerts to your system that you're already using, your SOAR system, and still let those playbooks that you have developed there work as normal. You don't have to do anything else. So this is something that we are focusing a lot on. And part of this, that what we are doing now, is that we have already had for a very long time an extensive API to work with all of these systems and basically any tool that you can think of, almost. We can integrate with them, and then of course it depends on the other end. Do they have the functionality? But that is a different story. But we are now also for the response part. We have I don't have that slide, but we have now published a GitHub with integrations for the 30 most common tools that people use to do response. So NAC systems, firewalls, other types of EDRs than the ones that I'm mentioning here, like Defender and the CrowdStrike and so on. So like Bitdefender and Sophos, those type of tools. We have published that on GitHub, the integrations for that, so that customers can do it themselves or with help from us to get the integrations to work. So, and this is sort of what we include and how we want people to think about Vectra, that it's a flexible platform to build the XDR platform in your way. And then I wanted to touch upon this new partnership that we have with Gigamon. So basically, we have this new tool, new product in our product line called the NDR for Cloud. And what it is the ability to get the network traffic from your cloud workloads. And what it does is that it mirrors the traffic out of the workloads and into a Vectra sensor, so that Vectra can see it just as an extension of your local data center network. So it won't be a difference for you in Vectra. It's just that it has a name, so you know that it's based out of AWS or Azure, or etc. So the primary things here is that it will, for AWS and Google, it will reduce the cost to monitor that. They have the virtual tap functionality, but it's quite expensive to use it. But it works, but it's expensive. Azure, as Mika mentioned, doesn't have that functionality at all, so you can't get the traffic today. But with this tool, you can get it. And so that means that you have cloud and local environments in one place in Vectra. And this is something that we have partnered up with Gigamon, so we can sell this product together with them. We sell them, but part of it is their agent. So that is a really good news for our customers. This is just another one about all the different types of integrations that we have. So I think I'm actually done here. But so thank you very much for listening, and I hope it was useful.
A question, please.
Yes.
Vectra is basically about artificial intelligence. Do I understand correctly that for proper detection, if we use Vectra, we still need other tools? This Vectra is just an addition to use artificial intelligence to evaluate something, but it is not by itself a complete solution for detection.
For detection, Vectra is a complete tool for detection. So we will do all the detection for you. We don't. I mean, we integrate with whatever tools you have. But so for network part, we are completely separate. We do all the stuff. But to include the cloud stuff, we need to integrate with those stuff, with those like Microsoft 365 or so on. The things that we don't do natively in Vectra is the response part. So there we integrate with whatever tool you have.
Like Splunk?
For example, Splunk, Logstack, anything that can receive the alerts, and then you have built some playbooks that takes action of some sort in it. So that is the basic. But the primary focus is the detection part, to highlight the attacker behavior, that something is happening in your environment on this host or this account. Highlight it to you early. You need to look at this, and we give you the information. Why are we highlighting it? All the detections, all the context in one place, so you don't need to look into multiple places. You don't need to log into Azure and so on, and you will have it all in one place. So that is the way it is. Is that answer to your?
So basically, if you think about examples, CMs like Splunk, what is it's priced based on how much gigabytes per second, example, or how many gigabytes you are consuming log data, or how many events per second you are consuming. How it actually helps on the Splunk side that we only push the detection part to Splunk. You don't need to anymore digest all that log data, what you used to digest into the Splunk. You don't need to do it anymore. So you, on the pricing, you can imagine it goes like on the Splunk side. Because you don't use that many gigabytes per day anymore. Let's say one normal detection from our side is a couple of megabytes.
Yeah. And
so comparing sending all the firewall logs to the Splunk, do the math.
And then, of course, the biggest difference in that sense, if you're trying to do detection on a CM system, you are developing your own rules.
Oh, yes.
And that takes a lot of time. You need to take in the logs. You need to take care of the logs. You need to parse them. You need to understand. And if you patch the system in the other end that sends the logs, maybe change the logs. You need to reparse it. So there is a lot of work on that sense. I also come from the from the CM business before I joined Vectra. I was working in HP with ArcSight for many years, consulting around Europe. And I can say that like even the largest companies in Europe, like the huge petrol companies, gasoline companies, oil companies, they had like a SOC with 200 people covering the whole world. And they still had like 120 rules that they had to cover all of their use cases. That's what they used in their CM system to cover. And they were constantly, 200 people, okay, a lot of them were working shift and sort of monitoring, but still you had a huge chunk of people developing and tuning these rules. And they at the end of the day, they had like every day 6,000 6,000 alerts that they needed to try to sift through every day. And that is where Vectra, it gives you this is what you need. So just a couple of alerts. And that is a huge difference where the AI really helps to prioritize and focus your efforts. So that is the primary focus. Yeah.
So you can use it as it is, or you can use it as an extension of something else. On the cybersecurity, as we all know, we need layers. We need these layers anyway, because there is no silver bullet in cybersecurity, right? So you need those anyway. So we, as in a Vectra, we try to make it kind of like more reasonable for the CMs to understand actually what is important and what is not.
Yeah.
So, thank you. But still, before you go, we have some questions from online. Okay. So, we have a client who is asking, do you have clients in Estonia who are using Vectra, and what is their experience?
I can take that one. We have. One is public reference, Tallink Group. If you go into Google and type it, Tallink Vectra AI, you find a video from Kalev speaking about how they changed from one of our competitors to the Vectra. They are one of our first customers in Estonia, and they have been our customer years. So yes, we have, and more to come. And two in public sector, I don't know, can I say the names, but they are in the certain city, what is the second largest in Estonia on the eastern part or middle part of Estonia, where is one big university.
Even one customer in the room here, but we won't highlight.
No.
And also the question, actually it's for both of you, what do you think is the most important part in cybersecurity nowadays?
You can if you want.
My favorite thing, then you can do it your shot, but my favorite thing is the sense, well, there is multiple things, of course, but the main thing is what if people know what the SANS Institute is, it's the largest cybersecurity education organization in the world. They produce around 40,000 cybersecurity analysts and professionals yearly in US. They have one saying, while prevention is ideal, detection is must. That makes a lot of sense if you think about it. While you're spending hundreds of thousands of euros in prevention, what will fail, but you don't have detection, you're screwed. That is proven in early ages of Greek called Trojan horse. Yeah. They built the greatest walls in ever, and then one small group of people push it inside the one horse. Ta-da! What happened with that wall? It was breached. Yeah. And the whole city was fallen. The same thing. So prevention is ideal, but the detection is must.
Do we have more questions? No. Okay. Thank you, Mika. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you.